Okay, so today we're going to be talking about cylinders and tubes. So we're going to start off by dividing the paper into 4 sections here. You guys, it's totally alright if your paper is at a portrait orientation. Mine's just landscape because that's the way my screen is. I know I've said it a million times, but just in case you're worried. We just want to divide this up into 4 quadrants here. Today we're going to be talking about cylinders. So let's start by just drawing a simple cylinder. Let's figure out how that works. So we're going to start out over here. And let's take a look. A cylinder is going to be composed of 2 circles, one on the top and one on the bottom, and a flat surface that's wrapped around. So if we look at the circle here, we have a circular shape. You will notice as I twist this circle in space, it begins to foreshorten. This is what I call foreshortening, which means it squishes and becomes a squished circle until eventually you just see the side. Okay? So we're going to be using these kind of squished circular forms a lot when we're drawing our cylinders. So we're going to start with a squished circle up here. We're just going to go straight down vertically. And then we'll put a squished circle on the bottom. So that is our basic cylinder. I'll come back in and add some contour lines to this. So we'll talk about this a little bit more in just a second here, but a really important concept here is that you're not going to be able to see the top and the bottom of the cylinder at the same time. So I need to decide which one of these I can see and which one I can't. I'm going to turn this into a dotted line back here so we know that this is not visible. It's part of the structure of the cylinder, but it's not a visible element right now, so we're just going to make a dotted line there. All right. Now let's talk about shading this. So we'll just do simple shading here. We're going to have a light source coming from the left-hand side, almost directly to the left here. That's fun. So we talked about with the cylinders, when we shade a curved surface, and this is going to apply to our spheres, but also our cylinders, we're going to have a gradient. So we're going to have a transition from dark to light. It's going to be a gradual, sort of smooth transition like that. So we're going to start off here. We're going to look at kind of where the light's coming from. It's coming from over to the left. And we're going to figure out where the border between the light and the dark is going to be. I'm just sketching that in very lightly. I'm using the side of my pencil because I want to blend this into my shading. I don't want this line to stay here. I want it to get blended into the shading. So I'm sketching it very lightly. And over on the right-hand side of that, I'll have shading. I want to get this to about a number 4 on my value scale, on my 5-tone scale. So it's what we would call a medium dark. And then it's going to transition. We'll have a little bit of a gradient right here. So it's just going to kind of slowly and softly transition to the light side. The light side will have just a little bit of value on it, but not much. And that transition happens really quickly. And then if I want to add in a cast shadow, that's going to kind of go at the same angle as the cast shadow on my other one. Kind of like that. So there's my basic cylinder. Let's take a look at how we see cylinders in space. So right now, I happen to have conveniently a set of lines bisecting my field of vision here, both horizontally and vertically. So let's pretend for a moment that this horizontal line is the horizon line. The horizon line is also going to represent my eye level. Okay? So let's check this out. here we can see I've got a cylinder. It's kind of a stubby cylinder. It's a little jar. So I want you to notice something. The first thing I want you to notice, when my cylinder is on the horizon's going through it, or it's at my eye level, I am unable to see the top of the cylinder or the bottom. All right? When this sinks down below my eye level, I'm suddenly able to see the top. When it goes up above my eye level, I can see the bottom. All right? We're going to practice that idea a little bit. So in the second box here, let's add a horizon line. We'll sketch that lightly because we're going to be drawing some cylinders that might be crossing it. If I've got a cylinder that is crossing that horizon line, it's going to look like this. But I'm not going to be able to see this edge or this edge. So my cylinder is going to look like this. It's going to have two vertical sides and two slightly curved edges on the top and bottom. Okay. And I can erase my horizon line out from behind it, because that's covered up too now. I guess we can make the light going the other direction for these, just to vary things a little bit. I'm going to make it kind of shining from over my right shoulder here. So then we'll just have a little bit of shading back here. Not too much. Since it's coming from behind me, we'll have more light area here. Just have a little shading there. All right, so that's a cylinder that crosses the horizon. If I've got one that is up above the horizon, draw my verticals first. It makes it easier to draw. It's the right size. All right, if I've got one that's up above the horizon, I'll be able to see the bottom of it right here. So that's all good. However, I'm not going to see the top of it, so I will erase this. You'll only be able to see one of the sides at the most with the normal straight cylinder. Okay. Then I can add a little shading. This will be a little dark over here, and then the bottom will be dark. The light's coming from up above. Same idea down here. Whoops. There we go. A little better. This time, though, I'll be able to see the top because the horizon, again, which represents my eye level as well, is up above the top, so I can see onto the top. But I won't be able to see the bottom because it's below my eye level. Shade that in. And the top of this will be light because, again, the light source is coming from up above. All right? So again, if I have one that's below, we'll be able to see the top. If I have one that's up above, we'll be able to see the bottom of it. And this is a little Mario pipe. All right, so similar idea. If we're moving our cylinders from left to right. So let me show you that here. Try to get this shaded a little bit. All right, so same idea here with the cylinder. If I hold it in the center, so this time we're dealing with this vertical line that's bisecting the space. If I hold it in the center of my field of vision, I cannot see either side. If it moves to the right, I'll be able to see the left-hand side. If it moves to the left, I'll be able to see the right-hand side. All right, so same idea again. Well, I'm going to draw this line in to separate the two halves. You guys don't need to draw this line. If it helps you, then by all means do it, but it's not necessarily required. If I've got one that's crossing that center line, like this, we won't be able to see either side, so it'll be like this here. Again, this is a really important concept that's going to apply to all your different shapes. This will apply to your cubes, your cones, pyramids, anything like that. Not really spheres because they only have like one side, I guess you would say. All right. I've got one that's over on the right-hand half here. Got here. So for this one, I'll be able to see the left-hand side, but not the right. You're welcome. Same idea over here. So on the left here, I'll be able to see the right-hand side, but not the left-hand side. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
All right. The last thing we're going to do here is draw some tubes. What's the difference between a cylinder and a tube? I don't know. But what I'm meaning when I say it is a tube is like flexible and can bend. It's more like a hose. And a cylinder is like a rigid cylindrical shape. So let's draw a tube. I'm going to start over here with a foreshortened circle. Your tube doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. You can start wherever you want with yours. And then I'm going to kind of just make it move around, kind of wrap around itself a little bit maybe. If you want to, you can make it get kind of larger as it gets closer to you. Foreshorten it a little bit, but I don't really care. You don't necessarily have to. And we'll draw an opening on the end here. Again, we kind of want these foreshortened circle shapes. I'm thinking, the way I'm looking at this, I think this side's going to be open, like this. And this side's probably going to be closed. I think this is facing away from the viewer. If I wanted to, I could make it look like it was twisted back towards the viewer and it would be open. But I don't think that's what I'm going for here. All right. So you can adjust this. We want to sketch it in and then make adjustments if needed. Maybe the size and positioning of things. Now I'm going to try to figure out the shading of this. So I think I'm going to make the light sort of coming this way. Okay, so maybe we'll have some shadow. Our shadows should be like on the left-hand side and underneath. Maybe some shadow like right here. Maybe wrapping around here. I think this is going to be, well, maybe this will be lightly toned. I think there'll be a little bit of shadow on it, not much. Shadow over here. Coming around this way. Diminishing as the light hits it. Something like that. If yours is a little different than mine, you can kind of figure out where your shadows would be. I think it's really useful to start thinking about like three-dimensional forms and how the light would be hitting them and where the shadows would be. I think it really activates parts of your brain you don't necessarily use for a ton of other stuff. But it's really important drawing skill to develop, just the ability to turn things over in your brain and examine them in your imagination. Some people can't do that. There's like a condition where you're unable to form mental images. The way you have to do it, basically, if you're drawing and you have that issue, is you have to like put something on the paper and then see if it's right and then adjust it from there, which I think is kind of interesting. All right, so there you go. One simple cylinder, cylinders above, below, and along the horizon, horizontally and vertically, and then one kind of bent, flexible tube. All right? And after you're done with all those, you can start doing a free draw with your cylinders and tubes.